and welcome back to my channel. This is Eileen DeFriest and this is our puppy. She's fast asleep and I don't dare wake her, so I'm going to do the video with her in my lap. This is a story time, and in the story time today we'll talk about an incident that happened at the first college I went to. But before I start, will you please subscribe to my channel? Please like this video if you do like it. Please turn on your notifications so you know when I have videos coming out. Please also follow me on Instagram, and you'll see I have stories there, photos, posts, things like that, and animals. Okay, so this goes back to when I graduated from high school, which was 1976. I then went to the same college that my brother did, which was in South Jersey. We grew up in northern New Jersey in Bergen County, and I looked at colleges. I wasn't very serious about where I was going. I hadn't a career in mind. Things were kind of chaotic in my family life. In those years, my mother was very sick with rheumatoid arthritis and would eventually die when I was studying at college. The period of time that I'm referring to is between 76 and 79. And I went to this college for 3.5 years, and I withdrew because I was having a very difficult time with anxiety and depression, and my mother was having a very, very difficult time. She had gone onto a wheelchair from a walker, and she was becoming less and less able to move. Rheumatoid arthritis is a terrible disease. It's an immuno disease, and it is, for some people, just an absolutely shattering disease. So, you know, things were really rough in my family at the time, and I just wasn't focused on school, and I ended up moving home. So the incident that I'm going to refer to is something that happened in my first year at college. It's funny when I think back to these times, because it is a very big deal at 17 or 18 or so. I was 18 at the time, and I was packing up to move away. Like I said, I hadn't a plan in mind about what I was going to do. I did English as my major. I knew that I loved literature, and I chose that as a major. So I knew what I was going to study, and I'd chosen my classes for the first semester. When it came time at the end of the summer to move away to college, because I was going to live on campus, I remember we packed our car, which was one of those old 8-cylinder big cars with lots of room. It was entirely packed to the gills, both the trunk and the inside of the car, with just a little space for me to sit in the back seat, and my parents were in the front. And they were driving me to college to drop me off. And I remember the feelings of dislocation and depression at that time, separating from my hometown friends, and some of my friends weren't going away to college, and some were. And I just felt so unmoored by the whole parting from my family. It's not that I was so dependent on my family. In fact, I was very independent in so many ways, because I had to be, because the way ill health in a family, it affects the dynamics of a family. It makes the family turn inward in a very big way. And there was a lot of problems in my family with money. There just wasn't enough money, and both of my parents having health issues, my mother in particular, you know, with rheumatoid arthritis. My father was having heart issues and everything, plus, well, a number of health issues. So it was a time where there was a lot of uncertainty, instability, and anguish in my family. In a way, I think it was a very good thing to go away to school, but it was also a very difficult thing. I spent a lot of time staying not away from my family, but establishing myself with my friends and my relationships with them as a kind of comfort zone, as a sort of haven from the anguish of my home life. It didn't mean that I disliked my parents or anything, or thought they were terrible. They, you know, unfortunately had a rough time of things, and you can't shelter your children from those things if you don't have the resources to do so. I'm aware that the puppy is sleeping on my chest, and I do think it's the cutest thing in the world. She's such a little love, this puppy. Anyway, so at this time, it was a very, very difficult time. I was torn in some ways with guilt about leaving my family. My mother depended on me quite a lot. My father was retired at this time, and there was only so much he could do because his health was in serious decline. And my oldest brother had married and moved his family. He was starting a new family, finishing his master's degree. He was a musician and eventually became a music director and music teacher. My other brother was living away from home, and at that stage I think he was beginning to battle addiction issues. So my family was, like a lot of families, having trouble. Nevertheless, I applied for financial aid and received it and was able to go away to college, which everybody felt was the thing to do, as most Americans feel after high school is the thing to do. And I think it's the thing to do. So any of you listening out there, if you have any doubts, please go to college. Please go to university. If you don't know what you want to study, if you don't know what you want to do, I promise you that 4 years will give you so much more to work with than you would have if you didn't go. I was one of those people just sort of walking blind, mostly because my friends were going and it seemed like the right thing to do. Like I said, some weren't going to college, but many were. So I remember that day, my parents' car was packed with my things, just packed. And I was moving into one of the buildings, the on-campus housing, with a stranger. I didn't know her. We didn't arrange to live together. She was from another part of New Jersey. And so that day, when my parents dropped me off, which was really a sad day, I remember I wasn't one of those people that would cry about things like that, because though I was very sad, it wasn't like I was having these terrible problems with separating from my parents. It wasn't that. It was just the loneliness of it, the despair of just not knowing where I was going. Just change, just separation is very, very difficult. And to some of you out there, and I know some of you are younger viewers, I am talking about this in part because I want you to know that it isn't unusual to feel alienation at a young age. Things will get better though. You'll find your place. You'll find your speed. You'll find your way to be. But going from adolescent to teen and then leaving home, it can be an awful lot. Even for me, who was so independent and in a way kind of free-spirited, it was quite hard because I didn't know what I was going to. I knew what I was coming from, which in some ways was probably a relief to, I didn't know it at the time, but in a sense it gave me some space to develop myself away from the demands of a family that required a lot. I know it's not unreasonable for parents to get ill and to require a lot of their children. But it's also a beautiful thing that my parents didn't hold me back and say, listen, stay back and take care of your mother. They let me go. And it was hard for all the reasons that such separations are hard. And it was hard too because it was exacerbated by the ill health of my mother and also my friends. I miss my friends. My teen years were very important to me, making friends and being friends with people. Those relationships such relationships were for me very, very important. And it was quite a while before I could commit to the changes of moving away from home and making a new life for myself. It's so difficult. I have so much empathy for all of you out there who have had to take that step, usually alone, sometimes with friends. We make that first step all on our own. And it can be really profound, a really profound experience. So for me, I remember that day. I remember kind of not wanting to stay, feeling just so alienated, just the foreignness of it. And then moving into, I never shared a room in my life. I grew up with 2 older brothers. I always had my own room. And then to share a room with a stranger who turned out to be really odd. I mean, a very odd person. And I must say, not very likable at all. And the time that I lived with her, you know, the first year of college, it turns out that we didn't become friends. I just found her really odd. And I remember feeling lonely a lot. Like, I remember worrying about going to the dining hall by myself. I noticed that a lot of people found friends quickly to go with, and usually that was their roommate until they found other groups of people to hang out with, or maybe they stayed friends with their roommate. But my roommate and I, we would never go down to a meal together. I remember those first days and weeks having to go down to the dining hall, just feeling so vulnerable and horrible and kind of ashamed that I was on my own. The feelings were just so deep, I don't know how else to describe it, but they were really, really upsetting. So now comes the kitty cat. Hi, Brittany, you gonna jump up? No, she didn't jump up. I don't know if you could see the puppy, but she's still sleeping in my arms. So my roommate and I, she just was really odd. I don't know what else to say, but she would chew with her mouth open, and this was like such an irritating, horrible thing to do. Like, why would you chew with your mouth open? When I say chew with your mouth open, I don't mean just like making a little, you know, little weird noises, but like, you know, full on chewing with her mouth open. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And it was so off-putting. It was just shockingly off-putting. And I never wanted to sit across from her at a meal. As the weeks progressed, you know, turned into months, during that time I had friends from my hometown come down to visit me. And I made friends with people on my floor and in my classes. And my roommate was just really jealous, not over me, but just, I could tell she really resented me, that I had visitors. You know, I feel sorry for her, and I felt sorry for her. What else could you say? She didn't ingratiate herself in any way that was favorable, that would produce favorable outcomes in terms of making friends. It was just a really odd situation, but I could feel, as the months progressed, just this hostility coming from her. I realized, you know, soon thereafter that it was jealousy. She wished that she had friends that would come and see her, that cared about her. And I mean, I just didn't learn too much about her because we just didn't have anything in common. And I tried to be out of the room as much as I could. It was a very unhappy year. Now, I think it was about 3/4 of the way through the first year, the year that I lived with her. One morning I got up, and I remember toilets with sinks were located. There were 2 wings, almost like a horseshoe shape in my building. And on each wing there was a set of toilets, you know, the bathroom. But in each room we had a sink and a mirror and space to put things. So I remember one morning I was standing at the mirror. I had just brushed my hair. This time I had very long hair, quite long down my back. And it was, I mean, I will be immodest and say that it was nice hair. And it was thick and healthy, and it was brown with kind of chestnut, natural sun streaks. And 2 things I've always had in life, and I've said this before, I've always had good feet and good hair. Now, I don't think it's so great now. It's just okay, no big deal. But when you're younger, you know, your hair is a big thing. For women, probably for men too. So I just finished brushing my hair, and all of a sudden there was this commotion behind me, and I felt this pressure on my head, and it sort of went down like from the top of my head down to my neck. And it was my roommate. My roommate had come up behind me, and she'd taken a scoop of rubber cement, and she wiped it down my hair. She wiped it down the back of my head. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't see it, but I reached back and I could feel it. And I ended up spreading it around more because it was like syrup or something. Because I remember it was like amber-looking gel. And it turns out that it was glue. Whatever rubber cement is, it makes things stick. It was the most crazy thing. It was an unprovoked attack. I didn't report her or anything like that. It was just, she thought this was really funny. It wasn't funny. And it took months. I didn't get it all cut out of my hair. You might think, like, why didn't you just cut it out of your hair? Because I would have had a big bald spot had I done that. What ended up happening is Now I'm quite different. Now I'm quick to react. Now I don't take garbage from anybody. But back then I was easygoing and slow to react if somebody's mean to me or something, and done something like this. So I think when she'd done it, I didn't realize how serious it was, but I was like, why'd you do that? And I think she thought it was funny. Well, she did think it was funny. She was laughing. And I remember I had to go off to class, and I remember talking to some friend. This girl behind me was like, what's in your hair? Do you know you have stuff in your hair? And I said, yeah. I said, my roommate put rubber cement in my hair. And her jaw hit the desk. He was like, what? And she said, listen, that's really bad. That's not going to just wash out of your hair. And she said, come to my room. And she ended up putting like a whole jar of peanut butter in my hair. And apparently she thought or had heard that would loosen the glue or something. Well, it didn't work, but we tried several substances and liquids to try to counteract the stickiness of the rubber cement, which really had made my hair all clumped together. It was really, really a disaster. It wasn't like today where you could go on the internet and find wonderful, wonderful information about how to get rubber cement out of hair. If I Googled that right now, I bet you I'd probably find. So it never came out of my hair. It ended up that a couple of friends of mine, one friend of whom used to cut her sister's hair or something. So she did a little cutting, but the knot, I remember it was like a 6-inch long knot of glue. It just didn't come out with washing, and it just hung there. And I was advised not to cut it because I don't know why. I eventually had it cut out. I don't really remember, but it was never undone. Like there was no way to make the glue unstick that we had found. So it was the craziest thing. If you've ever had anything like that happen in your life that is so utterly random and so uncalled for and so consequential in a way. Now, it didn't ruin world peace. She didn't injure my head. She just messed up my hair, and it grew back. Hair grows back. But it was such a disturbing experience with somebody who was having a reaction to me, and I was simply living my life. I was sensitive and empathetic. I would never make her feel uncomfortable. I did my best to live, across the room from her. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person or anything, but it was such an uncalled for reaction. And any other times, I only remember one other time in my life where I've been what felt like a victim of a mean person. I don't think this woman in college was a mean person, but I think I think it's a mean thing to do, but I don't think she was a horrible person. I think she was a troubled person. And what she did to me was really uncalled for. I didn't tell the school authorities or anything like that. I wouldn't get her in trouble. But there was only one other time, and that was when I was waiting tables during the summer between years of college. And this woman that I worked with, she just took such an instant dislike towards me. And I feel almost like I'm talking about, if you've seen that show, Selling Sunset, where the women who work for these two guys who own the real estate company, it's just this crazy drama. And that's what it felt like. What do you do when there's a group of people or a couple of people that just don't like you? I didn't do anything. I mean, I swear I didn't do anything. There was nothing I did. I just existed. I don't know why the woman was so mean, but I ended up quitting the job because there's just no way. I still see her in my mind's eye today, and it still makes me scared. It's like the thing we all fear, I think, is to meet loathing, to meet danger, unprovoked danger. You can almost imagine what it's like to be an animal who you're always having to watch out whether you're going to be the prey or you are the predator. It felt really like I was the prey and this woman was the predator. It was just so terrible. But anyway, the college woman, it wasn't a predatory thing to do. It was just a mean thing, like a silly, weird, odd thing to do. But I recovered, and hence the purple hair today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. It's been really great to talk to you guys again. Please subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, follow me on Instagram, and life will get better. Here's the puppy. She would like to say good night to you all. Say good night to everybody, babe. Are you tired? Are you tired, little baby? Oh, you're so sleepy, baby. I love this doggy. And she loves you guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.